Okay, so we're going to talk about subtext, substitution, and who am I, added to stakes, obstacle, and through line. Someone share with me something that you learned this morning or yesterday, or something that's altered for you. And for a lot of you, things have already begun to alter, but you're not aware yet enough to have seen the alteration. Alter in action. Altar, right, is not something you go to, it's something you bow to. Your altar. You are the altar. It's not something you go to, it's something you bow to. Bow, head below heart. Head, intellect, below heart, ontoloct, where all is one. Head below heart, intellect below cognition. You bow at the altar. You are the altar you're bowing to. Alteration is the bow in action. As you bow, manifestation, E equals mc squared. E, energy, equals the manifestation of the speed of light times itself. Right? So, am I what I thought, or do I see what I am? I have the thought so fast that it actually manifests and then I see it, or because I saw it, it was. This work is not either. This work is E equals mc squared. This work is the equals. You watch it come in and go out of existence. R-E-E-L. The manifestation of that with which is a reflection of self. On both ends, the water coming through it or being exported. You are the observer. You are not the doer or the receiver. And science is still trying to figure out which it is. Macro, true. Micro, true. So when I ask you, have you noticed anything in the last 36 hours? Most of what's altered for you already, you will not be aware of for a while. However, is there anyone who is new to this work in the last 2 days, or newer to this work? Because my students will raise their hands and give you elaborate information, and healers will tell you they can see the plants dancing, which they can because they are. But I want to hear from one of you who are very mindful as a good thing. Remember, good and God are the same word, yes? Add a no, take a no away, it doesn't matter. If it's not good, it's not God. If it's not good, it's your individuality. You want to always surrender to good. Good being the equalizer. Oh yes, red-headed princess.
I've definitely had a shift in perception.
I've been watching you have it.
Finding the funny.
Instead of the bizarre.
Yeah.
You actually are drawn toward bizarre. You're comfortable in bizarre. And then you get depressed because of it. Do you mind if I share that with you? Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I can't see very well, so it's hard to, and the lights are really irritating, but you have to pretend you don't care. Love those lights in my face. I can see perfectly, but we don't know each other, and clearly I mistook you for a stranger when you put your hair down, but I can read you in this moment. And as you actually get comfortable being ordinary, you'll be spectacular. But ordinary to you is painful. It's hurt. It's oblivion. Your mind is very loud. It manifests very loudly. It's her friend. She's like, pick her.
Yesterday when I left here, something definitely happened. I left and I felt I couldn't really remember. I was trying to remember everything you said. And
I can't remember anything I said.
I can't remember anything that just happened. But I went to work, and I work at a restaurant, and
we should have eaten there for lunch.
And I said, I'm going to make every person that I come in contact with the most important person at that moment.
You tripled your tips.
And I did that, and I had a great night. The night flew by, the hours flew by, and at the end of the night, one of the other waiters, who I didn't tell anything to because I didn't remember anything, said to me, before you got here, he's like, it was slow, the energy was horrible. He's like, you came like a ray of light, we got busy. He's like, it's amazing. And I was like, really? Okay, something happened.
Maze, Ing, Grace. Now, if you weren't sitting in this room all day yesterday, quantified by today, you have no idea what I just said. If you were sitting in this room yesterday, quantified by today, maze, ing, grace will alter your life. And people didn't come for these 2 days because it was bullshit or too expensive. And that's how close we all are to God. And say no, because of no belief in the self. Congratulations. In a week, you'll make back more than this cost. And then you'll continue to. The more you serve, the more you make. And then you'll serve to make and lose it all. The more you serve, the more you make. And then you'll serve to make and lose it all. You can only receive by giving. You cannot receive by taking or getting. You can only receive by giving. I give you something and you smile. It's unmanipulated. I can believe the smile. I take an action to get you to smile. You smile. I know it's because of the manipulation to get you to smile. I receive nothing. Congratulations. Big deal, little step, big deal. Big step, little step. Big deal, little deal, big deal. So subtext, that with which is not allowed to be shared with the people, places, or things around you for fear you will lose what your high stakes needs so much. Yes, all the things that can't be said. When you go home tonight, I want you to notice how much you can't say that you are feeling, which most of you actually mistake as just the ethers. Real. My fucked up life. It's a choice to withhold your life in the name of what is around you so that you can have what you fear the loss of. Now that is a very small, insignificant, fear-based, miserable, diseased life. In my opinion. One or two of you may join me in that opinion. The practice of the awareness first and the willingness second to take an action to imbue your world with yourself. If the people around you can't handle what it is you have to say, should they be around you? Not you're right and they're wrong. But you're like, people around me don't like me, no one really gets me. Why don't you start telling the truth? And I guarantee you, the cherries in the bowl will rearrange. You might have more kiwis. You might have less, but you won't keep cherries. You keep lying and waiting. You keep wondering why the people around you don't get you. Let's see who we can blame for that. Subtext, that with which cannot be shared. When the stakes are high enough and the need is great enough and the obstacles are wide enough and the action to get what you cannot not live without is strong enough, connected enough, and committed enough, you will not be able to speak. But the action will cause an opening instead of a shutdown. Now, if you can't find what I just suggested, it probably means your substitution for the who am I you're speaking to is off. If you were in an acting class that taught you to go, well, I'm doing a scene with my mom, so I put my mom in there. Well, this mother loves you and your mother hates you, so how could you put your mom in there? Do you understand? You want to substitute in that with which is a direct response of the human behavioral emotions and human emotional behaviors you just set up. Not the figurehead of I love you. I love you to who, for what reason? When it's like a fork. If you want to eat, you have to manipulate the fork to get the food into your mouth, yes? If you want the being, the inanimate subject around you to become animate, you have to use substitution to create the visceral response. So not difficult. It's impossible to play, which is why it takes Anthony Hopkins. You know, people like this are still doing it. If it were possible, don't you think they would have figured the tic-tac-toe out by now and they'd be done handing it off to future generations? No, they drop dead acting because it's so fantastic. Your chakras align, you get done with sex, you don't get done with life. Your chakras align, you get done with alcohol, you don't get done with life. Your chakras align, you get done with the world, you don't get done with life. Human behavior. human, behavior, human, being, having your, outlet and plug, boom, here we are. You don't get done with that. If you can't find a visceral substitution to cause the emotional response of what you just set up in stakes, obstacle, and through line, find one. You can't outgrow that. If it's flat, it might be that the overall driving force, whether it's about love, power, or death, the overall driving force is off. If it's a love scene and you made it a power scene, a lot of men make that mistake in the rock 'em up, hock 'em up movies, you know. They make it about power, but they already have power over each other. It's about love. How do the jets and the sharks and the jets, if I'm a jet, how do I get a shark to love me? I want to see that on Broadway. I don't want a jet fighting a shark. That's stupid. It's already written. I already know the jet's going to fight the shark. You keep your $145, you asshole. I want to see a jet and a shark make love. Do you see? But that's not going to occur to your acting coaches. Now, I'm not an acting coach for you. I don't live in New York, and I'm not moving to New York, although going to lunch day was, okay, I'm going to get a house in New York. But by Tribeca, that okay, I was just moving into your house. I better be careful. Between what you already have and what you can acquire is the plug-in. But you live in what I don't have now and what I'll get if I'm lucky. Now, if the overall driving force is already about power, if I already have power over her, then why would I make it about power? I want to make it about love. If I know I can't get love from her, what a great reason to make the movie, to see if I can get love from her. I don't meet her at the honey wagon and go, we hate each other on the set, so let me just tell you how much I like you now so that I won't feel bad about beating the shit out of you on the set. Oh, I'm going to stay away from her. She's at the honey wagon. I'm not going to the honey wagon. She's going to see me. I'm going to look. I don't want her to see that I'm not going because I want her to see me. We've already begun. Nobody had to call action or cut. We've already begun. When does the delusion become true? The moment you see it. Overall driving force is off. You make a power movie about power. What do we got? The jets fighting the sharks? That and a bag of popcorn, you got a bag of popcorn. Something well directed or poorly directed. You show me a jet and a shark who hate each other and the sister died from that man's brother. You tell me that during that 2 hours somehow they're going to make friends. I'm front and center. Yes or no? So if you can't get gas in the engine, if you can't make the car go back and look at the overall driving force. You got stakes, obstacle, and through line. Now you want to, right, we got the 3 legs of the stool. Now we want to start to paint it, make it real, start to move like that train in action, train of thought. The direction it's headed is the point of view we get. The director gets to film it. The impossible action alighting. The subtext, that with which cannot be spoken because I'll lose what I need from you. Knock on the door, you better me because I'm spending my last $50 on you. Hi, how are you? Boy, you look pretty. What I mean is me, lady, because I'm going to be pissed if you don't. Substitution he's got for the girl, someone who's just too good for him. Because if it's a girl that he can get to him that's the same as him, he's not spending his $50 on her, he's just her. So you know he's got a substitution over there of someone just outside of his reach. Why? Because it gives him a game to play. Stakes, obstacle, through line, the 3 legs of the chair. Need, loss, and action. The wheels start to spin, the propeller takes off. The first thing happens, that's flight. During the flight, the director gets to film. You can't find the visceral connect, look for substitution, that with which causes the emotional response of the human behavior you just set up in the stakes. Subtext, that with which cannot be spoken, too dangerous, stakes too high. Who am I? 10 words or less. Oh, I made that up. I don't know how many words it takes, but not too many. Hopefully, don't ask a question. Who am I? Who am I? Who am I? You're a doctor, so you act like a doctor. You have you lean in, and you have your stethoscope, and you say, oh, let me be a teacher, because I'm being a teacher right now. I found myself in teacher just now. I'm getting control over the room. I lean in a little. Just pick my glasses up and fix them on my face. Do you understand that's how people act teacher, yes? Yeah. That's how people act teacher. Are you sick of it yet?
Yeah, definitely.
You're going to start to use your who am I to get what you need as human beings do, whether they're doctors or lawyers or Indian chiefs. Instead of acting doctor or lawyer or Indian chief, you take an action to get what you need. Meaning, if I'm a teacher, you're the most important people in my life and I cannot live without you. Without bequeathing this information to you, I leave New York without leaving you with this information, I've somehow failed. My job is to get you to hear what I mean. The impossibility of getting you to hear what I mean is you're never going to believe me and it's non-intellectual and this can't be handed to you and I have 2 days to do the impossible and there's no way to leave after 2 days with you believing anything that I've said or giving you, having nearly enough time to give it to you. The stakes are high. The obstacles are great. Have I acted like a teacher since you met me?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Any teacher you've ever met? And yet, have you learned more from me in 2 days than most? Yes. Lie and say yes. Come on, I'm here. Do you understand that what we do is we get a script and we act what we think it means? If you actually act the way you are, the piece in you, that little pre-verbal self in the first 8 years of your life that knows it knows where it's an imposter and not enough, and if any of you in here think you don't resemble that comment, don't go to therapy, but look and just stare in the mirror for like 24 hours without moving. It'll take 24 minutes, but just say 24 hours. You are a conglomeration of habits and patterns set in motion to cover that with which is the speed bump of the pre-verbal self, where some piece of your computer chip got broken. I don't have time. I really don't have time. I really don't have time. Time is gone, the plane is leaving. I really don't have time. Now, there's no such thing as time. However, if there were such thing as time, I don't have it. How many times have you been sick where you acted sicker than you were to get your roommate or your mother or your husband or your boyfriend or your next door neighbor to help you? When was the last time you were sick and you actually acted the way you were and said what you meant and knew that people were coming to help you no matter what? Oh my God! And you continue to want to live in this cult. I think not. I think you should think about that. I think you should give some deep thought to why you live here, unless you're here to be of service and help people. Because if you think you've joined this, we are in big time trouble. Big damn time trouble. I'm now trying to do 16 hours worth of work in 12 minutes. I'm just going to say 3 sentences at once and just pick the one you like best and leave the rest. The who am I is not something you act. It's horrible. You see people playing prostitutes. Prostitutes are not played. I don't even know how to play a prostitute. Playing a prostitute. A prostitute is someone that more likely than not was by her mother, uncles, father, brother, sisters when they were little. They know themselves as a physical, what did we call it about the people, non-entity like meat? Non-human, inanimate, that would be the word. I'm gonna start hoofing in a second. You're really going too fast. Please slow down. Prostitutes are people who feel inanimate. Unless you need their body, they don't exist. They huddle, they bring themselves down, they push themselves out where they do know. They hate that you touch them, but if you don't touch them, they don't exist. They want to walk into a store and make a living like you, but they already know you know them. So they crowd over the opening. Their head is full of what's happened to them because they live in insanity, because they rerun over and over and over again that they were handed and passed back and forth. Sometimes eyes wide open, sometimes eyes wide shut, passed nonetheless. And there are people that can be gang raped, that feel like they've had a great night of sex, and there are people that you can walk past and barely touch that feel raped. So it's unto the self how one experiences life. That while they're being had, while they're being had, they leave their mind. What it means is they go beyond their own state of their totality of existence, of the knowledge of what a human being is. They go into a third entity, and they don't come back until you're done with them. And when they come back, they've lost space and time, so they don't know what happened to them while they were gone. And when they walk into a store or any place outside of what they already have a convenient understanding of, they go into that third space. They hear you speaking to them and things you're not saying. This is the beginning of the who am I of a prostitute. And yet, we have the audacity to stand in front of each other and act some arrogant piece of shit that will let her vagina be touched. Over and over and over and over again. The who am I is something that you investigate. It is not something you pretend. The who am I is a blackboard at your home. You write, Candace, who am I? A teacher, a mother, a girlfriend, an explorer, owns a home, drives a Mercedes, gets Botox, has 4 sisters, has 4 children, used to be a vegetarian, doesn't drink. I don't know, you write down what the writer wrote on the paper meets the who am I, sends me here. You don't get to know. None of you know how your week is going to work out or your life is going to work out. Why do you think your character should know? None of you know how this hour is going to work out. Why do you think your character should know? How many of you are going to die one day? You better raise your hand. I don't have time to tell you you're going to die. Okay, how many of you are going to die one day? How come you're not acting like it now? Why don't we act like we're dying right now? Because it's not on the page we're on. If you're on page 6 and you die on page 72, why do you start acting like you're dying on page 6? Do you understand? If you get divorced in the script and you get divorced on page 73, why do you start acting like you're getting divorced on page 6? Because you have no faith. You want to play the future presently to show the people in the audience you know what's going on because you're used to proving to your parents that you can make an A that you really cheated on. And you leave yourself behind. Wait, how do you leave yourself behind? I don't know. I started doing the hokey pokey though. Do you follow me? Do you know that you can't follow me, but do you follow me? Come on, follow me. Do you understand you can't understand, but you can hear me? You're starting to hear me, right? Your ears are deaf and your heart's open. Starting to hear me. We're not even at the end of day 2. Can you imagine if we had 3 days? That the opportunity life is not act this way. It's experience now. So the who am I, you write on the blackboard. It's an observation of opportunity. Who am I? I am these things. The writer writes you get a divorce during it. The writer writes you have an abortion, you have an abortion during it. The writer writes you're homeless during it. You don't act I'm homeless, I got an abortion, and I'm divorced. Why people, one after another, keep acting? We saw that on TV yesterday, people acting the part. Can you act you? If you could act you, you'd do a better job than living you. Would you not do better than you're doing now if you could act you? Would you not do better than you're doing now if you could act you? I mean, if you could like send yourself forward and go like, go get that guy, go get the thing going, get the job, and like I'll be over here waiting, go act you. Okay, so I had this teacher, she screamed a lot, talked about prostitutes and charged us $400. Okay, do you understand that you can't explain this? Do you understand the freedom that we don't have? That the mind equates to, I'm going to work on it tomorrow? If only my father were, 3 more inches would have meant, you can put them wherever you want, but you know. Who am I is not something you act. It's something that you write down to take a look at what the writer intended, put against the backdrop of whatever it is you're doing in the moment. Again, everything I'm saying applies to your life. Do you understand that what you're learning here for 2 days is theoretically impossible? You cannot explain this to any of your college professors and they will believe you. They have to experience the 2 days themselves. You cannot tell them what you got here. Remember the dreamlike state that you're sharing of your dream last night called Candace Silvers' class that you came to that didn't really happen because you can't explain any of it, and that if you try to explain your feelings, they'll go, but what did she say? If you try to explain what I say, I said a lot. It's not explainable because it doesn't live in the cultural phenomenon. No different than if you're speaking Spanish, there are certain words you can't translate in English. Why? Because we don't have those theories in English. They don't translate. Do you understand? So you just say, oh, I can't translate that. And everybody goes, oh, okay, you can't translate that. What does it mean, though? It means that we actually don't have that concept of that way of life extended as a reality in English. But everybody just goes, oh, I accept that. I have no idea what you just said. Come on, let's drink. You know. Do you understand how much you don't understand that you think you understand because you were told you understood, because when you asked why, you got in trouble? You got in trouble because your parents didn't have the answer, or the teacher didn't have the answer, or the clergy didn't have the answer. You didn't get in trouble because you weren't allowed to ask why. You got in trouble because you went beyond the Truman Show. And it made the adult feel frightened that they didn't know the answer to the question their 6-year-old asked. But your parents aren't wrong. They just didn't ask either, or they didn't demand, or they didn't go home. They didn't go where all the answers, all the libraries, all space and time lives. This is that train. I'm doing choo-choo, of thought. Choo-choo. Thomas the Train, my grandkids love it. This is that train of thought. If you back it up, you can read your history. If you move it forward, you can read your future. If you jiggle it, you can read your present. Like I just read some of you quite quickly and basically so you won't leave here hating me. I read your friend a little bit too much and the thing 2 weeks ago, and she ran away, never to return. This isn't for everyone. It's not for everyone all the time. But it's clearly for you right now, because you can't sit in this room if you're not receiving. You cannot sit here and listen. You cannot sit here and listen. They don't go together. One day you may sit in front of me and you may listen, and you will leave. You cannot sit here and listen. If you remain in this room, you are altering. Now, every once in a while, no one in here, but every once in a while we'll get someone who thinks they already know. It's a very, very painful way to take this class. Even I don't know, and I'm the speaker. The who am I cannot be known. It's something that's dealt with along the way. You put it on the blackboard to make sure that you keep the umbrella up so that all the rain falls within the who am I. And if it starts to get outside of the umbrella, you bring it back in. I'm a teacher, but now I'm acting like a prostitute. Maybe I should relook at myself. This myself that I am standing in. And if I have an opinion about myself, I take an action to put it in front of me, in between the most important person in my life and myself, seeing it as an obstacle that she sees me that way. I take an action to get her to see I am not that thing, therefore producing it in the world. No longer acting what I think is a dualistic, behind me comes myself approach. Actor, self, acting. You want actor, self, being. Yes? How to do that? You must go away. You must go away. Where do you go? You marry the self of other, by taking the action, the thought, the desire, the obstacle, applying it viscerally through substitution to the sense, 5 senses of self. As self moves, I move. That was your intensive.